Good morning again to all of our friends here from Chennai and Bangalore and other even more distant parts. This week's reading is from Rays of the One Light by Swami Kriyananda, which are parallel commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita. This week's reading is entitled, Do You Need a Guru? Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. Many people scoff at the idea of having a guru. True to human nature generally, they make a virtue of their scoffing. I am responsible for what I do, they announce, responsible for my mistakes as well as for my victories. What would I ever learn if I handed over my development to someone else? To depend on another for guidance would be an act of spiritual cowardice. It would be understandable for someone gifted with some trivial ability, for instance with words, to insist on doing his crossword puzzle himself without letting anyone else help him. But supposing, even in such trivial matters, he had no such gift, what virtue would there be in refusing to learn? For that matter, moreover, where do our gifts come from? They are not a native ability. Still, crossword puzzles are hardly an important challenge. What if a person wanted to do something daring, to climb a cliff, for instance, but refused to study the art of mountain climbing? He would climb at risk of his life. And how much more is risked than physical life in the great adventure of the divine search, where the risk is to salvation itself? Where is the sacrifice in seeking guidance? Even a mountain guide wouldn't presume to do one's climbing for one. His purpose would only be to help the neophyte to climb safely. To have a wise guru is not a sign of weakness, but of plain common sense. All the saints, aware as they are of the hazards on the all saints, aware as they are of the hazards of the adventure, agree on the importance of having a guide or guru. And these are the heroes speaking, not cowards or spiritual weaklings. Jesus emphasized the importance of having a teacher by asking John to baptize him. In the Gospel of St. Matthew we read of his coming to John. Thus, Jesus said to John, it becometh us to fulfill all righteousness. In the Bhagavad Gita, in the 4th chapter, Sri Krishna says, Open thyself to those who have attained wisdom. They will be thy teachers. Ask questions of them, both verbally and mentally. Serve them faithfully and with devotion. How is the devotee to recognize one who has attained wisdom? The Bhagavad Gita gives us this inspiring description of the sage. By this sign is he known, being of equal grace to comrades, friends, chance-comers, strangers, lovers, enemies, aliens and kinsmen, loving all alike, evil or good. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, and I hope you're having a good Sunday. Thank you for joining us. And if there are any Ananda Bangalore people who are coming today, welcome to you all too. Give our love to Haridas and Romaji. So today's topic is what I'm trying to say is today's topic is a very significant one, especially for this day, which or I should say this weekend, which is Babaji Commemoration Day. And this day represents a day that Babaji appeared to Yoganandaji. And Swamiji explained how at some point it was decided that, figuring out through the calendar and what happened this day versus that day, they figured out July 25th was as close a day as it could be. And because Babaji does not have a known birthday, that having a commemoration day is a good way to celebrate his life. And here in Chennai, we love to celebrate each of the Guru's birthdays and Mahasamadhis. And of course, Babaji is a deathless saint, and so does not have a Mahasamadhi. So we don't celebrate that. But we certainly celebrate him every time we have a Kriya initiation and beyond. And those who have come to a knowledge of Babaji through Rajanikanth, well, Chennai is the place for that also. So, better to learn of Babaji through a popular movie than not at all. And besides, Rajanikanth is a very spiritual man. And he has helped Ananda in the past. So we're very grateful to him for that. Now, this topic of do I need a guru, it reminds me of a few stories. One is, I have known this one woman for a long, long time. She's not part of Ananda, but she's kind of been the peripheral of Ananda. And I spoke to her, in the past year or so. And she somehow, I've known her not through Ananda, as I said. It's more like periphery. And somehow she must have forgotten that I'm part of Ananda. And she is elderly now. And so, I was visiting her. I think her memory is going a little bit. But she started saying, oh, yes, I remember those Ananda people. And it was like, do you know you're talking to an Ananda person? But anyway, she said those Ananda people. And, I went to one of the events and for Swami Kriyananda, and I saw everyone's eyes glaze over, and I thought, that's not for me. And I never wanted to worship anyone. And interestingly, she is on a spiritual path now, but it's not guru related. So for those who are cynically minded, it's a very common attitude. And I'm not going to even say mistake, though it seems like that to those of us who are part of this spiritual path. But cynicism is a way to keep us out of the heart. And the only way you can know whether a spiritual path is yours is through the heart. Your heart tells you. And so when we find the right spiritual path, and I wish this for everyone, and I don't wish it that it be Yogananda's path for everyone at all, but when we find that path, it's as though we found the glove that fits. And there is a deep restlessness within us that gets soothed, that gets calmed when we do find that path. And all you can do is maybe make a list of the pros and cons of a path. But that's not really what answers the question of, is this my path or not? The answer comes from the heart. And one thing I love is, very often we are very happy with our mental abilities and our ability to analyze things. And here are the pros and here are the cons. And so therefore I made a logical decision. But then Yoganandaji just wipes that all away when he says the mind always follows the heart. Meaning the mind will come up with whatever it needs to justify what the heart feels. And that feels very true, We can claim that this path is mine or this path is not mine. My response to my friend when she said that, I said, now, do you realize Kriyananda is, my guru as well? You realize this, and you said this to someone like that, right? And, oh, no, I like him. I was like, okay. And then she said another digging comment, and I realized, not a good idea to really nurture this old relationship. I've known her for at least 25 years. So, and she is elderly, so in my mind I kind of went, okay, and, I don't even know if I would be able to see her again. But, when someone does insult your guru, you have to check in with your heart. But for me in that moment, I felt I needed to make it clear that whatever she was saying it to me, a disciple, and I wasn't going to let it go. So I didn't in that case. But anyway, there was a cynical heart there, and a cynical heart is a very worldly heart. And I don't want to say worldly in this critical way, to counteract, well, you're cynical and you're worldly. I don't want to make that point in that way. But a worldly attitude says, it's only the physical that matters. It's only what my mind perceives that matters. And that's a big part of it, what my mind perceives. She thought everyone's eyes were glazing over. Well, I've been to many Ananda events. I don't know if I would have described it that way, but certainly people become open-hearted. If that's glazing the eyes over, well, okay. But when you become open-hearted, if you stand someone in front of you who's very much in their mind, their aura, the way they looks a certain way. But you give them an experience where suddenly their heart opens, you can see more deeply in their eyes, their face lightens up. All these things do happen. There is a physical change. And we all are sensitive beings. We know when someone around us is just in their mind and cynical, or when someone is around us and they're open-hearted. When you're around a cynical person, you kind of contract a little bit, like, I hope I don't become the focus of their outward way of looking at things. So there's not much you can do except hope that person at some point, sooner or later, will go into their heart and be able to feel in life. And it's one of the deepest blessings to be able to find your path. And when we first find that path, we want to keep it protected. I know we have a lot of new students who have tuned in. And when you might find, wow, I love these teachings. This is the best thing I've ever come across in my life. I better tell everybody. And I was that way myself, and made one of my sisters very angry at one point by telling her all about things and wanting her to also join, which she did actually check things out and then was not interested. But, we may want to share, but then we might encounter one of those cynics, and it shoots a dart through our aura. And we don't want to be influenced by that. But when we're newer and our auras are not as strong and that dart comes in, it can create a doubt that is not great for when you're new on the path. Sometimes there's rumors about people and things, and you suddenly believe it, and then you're looking at them and wondering, are you really that way? It's not a good feeling to have. You want to protect your spiritual path. So I would say don't proclaim it to everyone, or at least not to those who do not seem interested. And you can probably tell by the look on their face when you broach the topic Whether when you say something, do they say something back of an interested nature? That kind of thing is a clue whether to continue in the conversation or to not. And it's important to, get the signals from someone else to find out. Otherwise, you might unfortunately welcome that cynical dart that can pierce your aura. So I would say stay away from that. The other story that I wanted to share was also about another woman that I knew for a long, long time at Ananda. And she always kind of prided herself in being a student of all paths. And she was a very, very intelligent person and did a very good service at Ananda. But she had this interest in all paths, and let's be equal-minded to all paths. It really made her angry when she saw people going deeper at Ananda and not, she felt we were shutting out the other paths, and by focusing just on Yogananda and wanting to go deep in Kriya Yoga. And instead she thought, well, I do Kriya Yoga, but I also, love Buddhism and want to do this, and I also love this. And so I was aware she felt this way because she made it known a number of times. And like I said, she's very intelligent, so she could always come up with a good argument about things. And I never wanted to talk to her about that at all. I just wanted to appreciate who she was. And then one day, I don't know if she was in a mood or whatever, but she decided to take me down for having dedicated myself to Ananda in this, what she perceived as this narrow way. And so she kind of said a few kind of nasty comments, and I went away. Sometimes I can come back saying something, but I was not in a space to, mentally sword fight with someone. So I went away and then thought about it and kind of meditated on it. And then I thought, I need to talk to her about this because she's been a friend for a long time, but for some reason she's decided to say this, and it's really untrue what she's saying about me. And because she said it directly to me and she said certain words, then I could confidently go back and talk to her about that. I wasn't making it up in my mind or projecting onto her that she said something critical. It was right there, right in my face. So I said, can we please have a talk? And so I ended up telling her, I said, look, I think you think that when I'm choosing this path, to go deep in this path, that I am also feeling critical of who you are and your path. And I said, I'm not feeling that way at all. I said, I find deep satisfaction, and I have always found these teachings to be so endless, so infinitely interesting. I just feel there's more and more that becomes revealed and more depth that happens by focusing this way. And that's not intellectual because I feel I'm experiencing that. I'm not just saying that, which I could have just been quoting Yogananda, because this is what Yogananda and Swamiji say all the time. You pick a path and you go deep in the path. Well, I could parrot that. I think that's what she was saying, that I was like a parrot. And I could parrot that, yes, I want to go deep on the path, and so I'm focusing on this path. But I have and had experienced the wondrous joy of being on this path and never being bored, of being on this path and continuously enjoying the depth and the revelation through Yoganandaji's teachings, through Swami Kriyananda, the depth of these teachings. It's endlessly interesting. And Yoganandaji, yes, he does talk about once you make discipleship for a certain guru, you want to be dedicated to that guru because that guru is your lifeboat back to God. And we want to attune to that vibration because whatever vibration comes to earth that we follow to the earth, we follow back from the earth into the next stage after this earth. And so it's okay to choose to be narrow. And yet, from the outside, it is only looking narrow. But from the inside, that depth, you might be going through a narrow portal, and then it's ever expansive, ever new bliss, ever new joy, infinite. And so, yes, narrow at first, and then the experience is infinite. So when I said that to her, she said, "Oh, I didn't realize this. What you're saying is true." And then she never said that about people anymore. And I was so happy that we actually had that negative interaction because she had this understanding then. And she still was her same eclectic self. And it turned out she felt 10 years later, or 15 years, I don't remember what it was, but maybe 10 years after that incident, she left Ananda for another path. And so I think this is another truth. If you're in a path and you're looking around and you're saying, why are all these people so dedicated here? And why are all these people like so narrowly focused on their guru? And why are all these people, glazed over in their eyes with the love of God on their face? Why is this happening? That path may not be yours. And that's okay. And when we find ourselves in the middle of a group of who are on a path that we're not on, it just seems strange. It's not a fit. And that's the thing that I told my friend who had been negative about Ananda. I said, when you find your path, it's a fit. But when it's not a fit, you're not drawn at all. You just think, what's this? I don't feel anything. And so that's a clue. But we certainly, just because we don't feel anything doesn't mean other people don't feel something. So if you find yourself in the middle of a path saying, I don't feel anything, I don't feel it. I really like the teachings. I really agree with the philosophy. I really like, the people's personalities that I'm around. But if you're also thinking, but, I'm not going to worship anybody, that devotion to the guru, I guess you could call worship, but worship to me implies an outward action and implies kind of a hypnotized thing, the way she was saying it. But that worship, that is the worship that we want. We want to worship God. We want to feel that ever new joy, that ever new bliss, that ever new devotion that we have for the guru, and feel it as deeply as possible, because that is the transforming energy that helps lift us towards our path to God. And as soon as we do find that path where we say, oh, I feel the same thing. I'm very interesting. And then, wow, that deep, restless angst I had inside is gone, because now the path has begun. We can say we're on a spiritual path when we're going here and going there and going to all these different places and reading all these other things. But once you're ready and you've made that choice, because it's infinitely interesting as well as infinitely opening of the heart, and you know that is it, then the path begins. Then the path really begins, and that is the path back to God. That's the path the guru is meant to be on. As Swamiji was saying in the reading, you don't try and climb Mount Everest without a Sherpa. He's the one nowadays. Poor people climbing Mount Everest have to wait in lines for hours only to get oxygen sickness and all sorts of things. But the Sherpa can help you through that. And so you want to have a Sherpa. You want someone who's been there before to help you out. Because this is not something, the ego cannot get itself out of delusion. The ego is part of it. So you can't get yourself out of delusion from a place of delusion. You need help. We need help. We all need help. So anyway, those two stories are kind of reminded me about this, and both of those people are doing very, very well. But they did help teach a lesson there, and in any case, I think we're all extremely grateful. Those of us who are on this path, and narrowly so, are ever grateful for all of its blessings, and ever grateful for Babaji for allowing householders to take Kriya Yoga, which was the big thing that happened between Babaji and Lahiri Mahashaya. Lahiri Mahashaya took Kriya initiation, and Babaji said, great, now you can give that to people who are deserving and people who are sannyasis. And Lahiri Mahashaya said, but there's so many people with basically spiritual sickness out there that need spiritual healing, that need Kriya Yoga, who have families and are householders and have jobs and pay bills and have children and things like that. Can't they also have this Kriya Yoga? And Babaji said, so be it. God has spoken through you. And so that's how we can all have it. And it's not the time now to be up in the Himalayas anymore practicing in a cave. The time now is for householders to be practicing Kriya Yoga in the world, helping to transform the world, not perhaps consciously, but the vibration that we carry after we've meditated deeply with Kriya Yoga, with just Hong Sa, even if you don't have the initiation yet. That vibration we carry is a large light. It's a large light of Yoganandaji. It's a large light of God. And where there is light, there is transformation. And that's what we need right now, isn't it? We need transformation. We need this virus to go away, and we need to transform and heal. And Kriya Yoga does that. Probably one of the most important things we can do is to be meditating deeply in Kriya Yoga and radiating that energy out. The energy of harmony is very important at this time. There's so much disharmony happening around the world. People are going crazy being inside or being told to be inside. But people need their hearts soothed. And so if we can send that harmony out, all the better. We'll be doing healing prayers a little bit later. So, and we have a warrior of light affirmation we like to do. So God bless you, and we'll have our arati. Thank you.